During her MSW program, Claudia completed her first-year internship at Instituto Madre Asunta, a migrant shelter in Tijuana. After earning her MSW, Claudia worked as a clinical social worker for UCSD HIV pediatric program. She is now working with families as a clinical social worker at Imperial Beach and Nestor Health Centers, doing clinical outreach for individuals with opiate addiction and clinical work with children and adolescents. Her work and field experience in the border region have afforded Claudia the opportunity to understand the intersection of communities, social, sexual, family ties in both countries. Claudia's personal experience as a fronteriza and her work with border communities has inspired her to continue her social work career with border communities in the United States-Mexico border region. Please welcome Claudia Gonzalez.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Alicia, for the introduction. Hi, everybody. I've been doing border work and working with the border community for at least 10 years. I actually started working with the community without having a bachelor's. It took me a while. I was in my early 30s when I decided to go back to school. Pretty much my background was that the education in my community didn't prepare me to go to college. So I struggled through, the different systems involved in my community. I felt disconnected from my family. I felt disconnected from my teachers, the courses, the classes, and I kind of went with it. Eventually, I decided to go back to school and pursue a career in social work because I was working at an outpatient mental health agency in San Isidro. And that's when I learned that it became my passion to connect with people, to connect with my community, because I saw their struggles were the struggles of my parents, and I saw the struggles of their children were the struggles that I lived through. So I decided to go back to school, and I completed my bachelor's degree at San Diego State University about 4 years ago, and I felt like that wasn't enough. I wanted to do more, and I went back a year later, and I completed my master's degree. And I'm super excited. In my master's degree, I was able to even go to Tijuana to do this amazing internship at Instituto Madre Asunta. You guys all already heard so many great things about this place. And it just completely changed my life again. I saw in many of the women that I worked with, the faces of my family, of my generations, the generations of my abuelita, my aunts, my mom, being migrants, coming to Tijuana, with the hope of something better for themselves and for their family. And I was just very inspired, and Mari Galvan was, an inspiration, learning through her just so many things, to become a trabajadora social in Tijuana, which was different from what I already knew in the United States. So that was definitely an amazing experience. And now I'm working with my master's degree, I'm working at a clinic. And I've also worked at another agency at UCSD. And it's been an incredible experience working with different people that I've now as a clinical social worker, being able to really see the disconnect that continues to exist in all the communities, not just in border communities, but everywhere, because we see people from all walks of life. There we go. Okay. So this is a picture that's pretty special to me. Is there a microphone so I don't have to? That we took when we did the first Binational Social Work Conference in 2017. It was my first time. I was trying to engage a lot of students from Escuela de Trabajo Social de Tijuana, along with Silvia Barragan. Eventually we got this huge turnout, and we had a lot of students even from San Diego State coming to participate. I remember the first meeting, it was just me. It was just me and Sylvia. We're trying to get people engaged, and we had this amazing turnout, so I'm pretty proud of that picture. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about the social work and what we do and how we connect. And one of the things that I've always taken with me is the NASW Code of Ethics, and wherever I go, I try to see through that lens. And just putting this presentation together, I didn't really know what I was going to say, other than this is what I do. I work as a social worker. at the border. But one of the things that I found was a disconnect that I've seen, so from different perspectives, as an actual citizen, as a person that lives in that community, in addition to as a professional as well. So the NASW Code of Ethics is the importance of human relationships. So social workers recognize the central importance of human relationships. Social workers understand that relationships between and among people are important. Vehicle for change. Social workers engage people, are partners in the helping process. Social workers seek to strengthen relationship among people in a purposeful effort to promote, restore, maintain, and enhance the well-being of individuals, families, social groups, organizations, and communities. Yeah, it's a lot, but this is what we do, and this is the lens that I look through every day when I encounter any person that I work with, and I really try to make a difference by connecting with them, to really sitting there with them, like Rachel mentioned, really sitting with them with their story and letting them know that they're the experts in their life, and that I'm here to joining them and sitting next to them. Something else that we learned in school is a person and environment. So looking through this lens, I think about the person, and I think about all the different systems around them. So we have the individual, we have the family, the spouse, the laws, the media, the history, church, work settings, politics, norms. So the ecological concepts sees people as constantly interacting with various systems around them. Social work practices directed at improving the interactions among the person and the various environments. So looking again through that lens, from the NASW Code of Ethics and social justice, I see every single day the disconnect between these systems, especially because of everything else that we've heard throughout the conference, all the darkness that exists right now in our political environment. People feel so disconnected within themselves, their culture, their country. They don't feel like they can actually go to, seek law enforcement. They don't have trust in our government. So they're really disconnected. And the children of those people, feel that disconnect as well. So I think about the different people that I've encountered. I think about like the little kid that I worked with at an elementary that was, woke up at 3 a.m. to cross the border every day to be at school at 7. That he said he was so tired, he would wake up, at his mom's house, at his aunt's house. That same little kid, remember, he was happy actually. If first he lived in the United States with his mom, he was living in Chula Vista, and he was so scared. When I first met him was because he was scared because his mom was going to be deported. So he was really scared every day that somebody was going to come to get his mom. Eventually, he said, one day he came back and he was a lot happier, and I'm like, what happens? Like, my mom just decided to go back. So his family went back to Mexico. He felt a lot more happier because nothing was going to happen. He already knew that he was going to be in Mexico, and he was okay with that. But he had to wake up at 3 a.m. every day. Right now, I see another person that her parents are going to be deported by ICE. Within the next few months. She doesn't know. She feels completely disconnected from all of these different systems. She feels disconnected from her mom and her parents because she doesn't have emotional connection. She's she speaks mostly English. Her parents are monolingual Spanish speakers. So there's that cultural disconnect between them. So there's all these different disconnects between all of these different systems. So some of the things that I see and what's happening in our border communities and just all over the country are there's homelessness. So I have families that come from other states like Arizona, Arizona, Nevada, just different states that come to San Isidro thinking like, oh, I'm gonna come closer to my deported loved one. So my deported loved one is in Mexico, they're in Tijuana, so let me come closer. I've heard San Isidro's not that expensive. Well, they end up in the street. They don't have a place to stay. They're living in their car. Eventually they lose their car and they end up, just living on the streets. So I met some of these families working at San Isidro School District in the homeless program there. So a lot of families coming from different places and end up at San Isidro trying to find a better life and be closer to the loved one. In addition to other families that the parents become homeless, the mom or the dad become homeless because now one of the parents was deported, so they don't have enough money, so they end up being homeless as well. So there's loss of financial stability due to that. There's mental stressors. And again, that disconnect, the general gap, the cultural gap, and the loss of sense of belonging. So that's the biggest one. They lose that sense of belonging because they're not connecting to any of those systems. They don't connect to themselves, so they really feel lost. And then we have all of the mental health ramifications that happen with the disconnection of all these systems. So one of the things that I try to do is build community. Everywhere that I go, I try to connect with people. I try to bridge care. One of my jobs, my roles right now, it's a clinical outreach for a program in our clinic. So I try, anywhere that I go, I try to introduce myself, know who they are, meet my community partners, and I really try to bridge that care, really facilitate it for my patients, because I know if they feel connected, if I can actually make that phone call for them and tell them that they're going to meet Jose at this place at this time, it's going to be more likely than if I give them this number and then they never are able to contact Jose because they left a voicemail, nobody answered. So what is our role as a social worker? Social workers help clients become aware of the conflicts within themselves and their surroundings that oppress or limit them, and that help clients become better able to free themselves from those constraints. So this is something, actually, I was looking through some of my books from school. It wasn't too long ago. And I found this, and I remember I had highlighted it when I was in class, and I thought this was a great quote, because we really help, those that are oppressed and that limit themselves, and help clients become better able to free themselves from those constraints. So one of the things that I do with some of my clients is I talk to about the Healthy Mind Platter. And they have all these different things that are optimal for an optimal brain. And one of them is the one that I highlighted here is the connecting time. But any social workers or anybody doing work out there, I really advise you to look at it. It's from Dr. Daniel Siegel. It's connecting time. So when people connect with each other, people ideally in person or take time to appreciate our connection to the natural world around us, richly activating the brain's relational circuitry. Sorry, I can't say that word. So what happens is that when people are connecting, really, they're able to, they're able to appreciate themselves and the things around them. So they really are able to use those different systems around them when they feel connected. So one of the most important things that I see every day is that connecting time. So this is from Brene Brown, and I don't know if you don't know, she's a social worker, and she's pretty famous right now. But she just got a movie on Netflix, or a show. So it's connection is an energy that is created between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment. So this is something that I take with me to every encounter I have in any place with a person. So what are some of the community strengths? And I have this picture in the background because I feel like, you have a carne asada in a community and it's, everybody's there. So to me, like, you want to connect with somebody, tell them you're going to have a carne asada and people are going to come over. So building connections, how can we, what are some of the strengths that already exist in our community? So they're really good at building connection. You just have to give them the connection. I tell them, hey, Jose, at 1 o'clock at this place, they're going to go, and they're going to call me. And I say, call me if you have any problems. And they do that. They're great at sharing resources. So you give them a resource, and they're going to tell their neighbor, the person at school. They're resilient. We've just heard all those stories. They're very resilient. And if you help them, if you're like, you give them that little bit light that Dr. Zuniga was talking about earlier, they can really, really, bounce back from a very, very negative situation. They're highly empathetic. They're so vulnerable, they're empathetic because they've lived that experience before. They have strong spiritual and religious beliefs, and they have strong family values. So how can we as social workers strengthen our binational community? So some of the things that have already been heard here, and there's so many people here in the audience that can help us build those connections, but I just have here a list that I thought for myself. So making them aware of their human rights, their legal rights, becoming activists, Community collaboratives. So I participate in like 4 or 5 different community collaboratives. So if you're out there, you're a community partner, make sure you know about the community collaboratives in your community, because that's where all the resources are at. Understand the legal processes. So know about asylum, know about refugee, know what that means, know what the differences are, so you can really help your patients or your clients understand the processes. Form community partnerships. That's so important for us social workers. Form community partnerships anywhere you go. Empower through advocacy. So really empower your clients by advocating for them, by being that voice. And building new connections, building new leaders. So every person that I meet, eventually I always see that there's something that we can do that they can become a leader in their community. So I always empower them to maybe participate in something that they're passionate about. So telling them about like Ángeles Sin Fronteras or, Border Angels or something like that, where they can really get to know themselves and be part of something big, something that's really important to them. And again, this is a picture of our binational community, last binational social work conference in Tijuana. These are students from the Escuela de Trabajo Social and some of us from San Diego State. And this was like what we felt at the end of that amazing evening. And I'm sure this is how we're all going to feel today. So I welcome and thank you all for being here. This is all I have to say. I'll go ahead and pass it over. Thank you.